Max Kellerman doing a daily show with ESPN Radio out in L.A. with our buddy Marcellus Wiley. He's getting set to join us right now on the Atlantico Rum guest line.
Max, I've been told by several people that you have an interesting and different LeBron James viewpoint. Let's hear it.
I have many viewpoints. Which one in particular? I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
Well, what happened?
He played hot potato in every fourth quarter. I think that his situation corrupted him. You know, the idea that power corrupts, right? So you have even well-intentioned, like, revolutionaries in the beginning. Eventually they get, Mao Zedong or Castro, right? And eventually they're all corrupted by their power. Well, the one sense is like the guy's ego gets totally, overblown, and he can't deal with it. But another way that power corrupts is you wind up insulated from the world. You wind up with a circle of people around you because you're the center of influence. And unless there's someone really looking out for you there, and even sometimes if there is, they're telling you what you want to hear. So LeBron's talent, that kind of pass first, uplift those around you, including taking his posse basically from high school all the way to the top of the mountain with him. Which one of those guys is going to say, yo, LeBron, you know what? You kind of, you were soft in the fourth quarter in games 2 and 3. Why don't you shoot that ball? Who's going to really tell that to LeBron James? And so in that way, I think he's kind of corrupted by his own power and situation, and I think that's largely to do with his really bad showing in the fourth quarter of all those games.
Well, isn't that Pat Riley's job? Isn't that Eric Spoelstra's job?
Or Wade's?
Well, Pat Riley's, which is why I don't know if Eric Spoelstra's the answer down there. Who has that kind of gravitas? Who has the kind of credibility and the coolness to be able to tell LeBron James, hey, do it this way and make that matter? I don't see Spoelstra as that guy, but I'm not right there every day as you guys are. To me, it seems as though Pat Riley might be the only guy for the job.
I think the problem, though, Max, with that theory and any theory is that same guy that we're talking about, he didn't get it done in the – I have no idea why. I don't think anyone knows why. I think maybe he knows why, but I'm not even sure of that. He did all those great things fourth quarter against the Celtics and the Bulls a week before that.
Yeah, but that was not on the ultimate stage. And it's
a pretty big stage, Max. It was a pretty big stage.
Sure, and he'd come through on big stages before, but that's not the ultimate stage, and there is a difference. He did here there was a no excuses situation. He had a cast that was capable of winning the championship. Look, they could have won that thing in 4 or 5 games, and largely as a result of his shrinking kind of play in the fourth quarter. Guys, he wasn't passing the ball to the open man. He was getting rid of it as fast as he could. Let's just call it what it is. He was hot potato. He just didn't want the responsibility. I once talked to a boxing trainer, I think it was Tommy Brooks, who was talking about the difference between Tyson and Holyfield. He said the difference is, and he kisses himself on his biceps, he goes, Holyfield loves himself, and Tyson hates himself. And maybe on some level, LeBron feels like he doesn't deserve it. I don't know what it is, but it's something, guys. There's a psychological issue there.
There was something there because I've never seen it. I'm sitting there staring at it in open-mouthed awe, Max, and none of us have ever seen it. None of us have ever seen a 25-point, not in that sport. In baseball, you can slump. In baseball, you could throw up an 0 for 20, even if you're the greatest guy in the world. We've never seen it in that sport.
Guys, and the other thing about Michael Jordan is that ship has sailed. And not just like, listen, I hated Michael Jordan. I was a Knicks fan growing up, the whole thing. But Jordan, never in his career, ever, would you know what up. I don't know if I can use the word on radio. You know what up. 6 straight fourth quarters in the finals. Jordan never had anything less than a spectacular all-time great finals series. And the first time he had a championship team around him, and every single year thereafter, he won the championship in under 7 games. There's a so the Jordan comparisons are already over. LeBron's got to work on his first championship and then, catch up to Larry Bird. He's got some work to do right now, guys.
Dan asked a interesting question earlier, Max, wondering what your opinion of it is. He talked about, because this entire season, Spoelstra, Riley, the team, they talked about trust. Trust one another, trust. And it appeared that LeBron was trying to trust his teammates in the finals there, specifically Dwayne Wade, and they didn't get it done. So will they have trust issues now moving forward?
No, I think, if anything, it was infectious, and it infected Dwayne Wade, because maybe I'm reading into it. Of course you are reading into it, but how much, right? I felt like Dwayne Wade was looking like, yo, this guy's doing this stuff again, and I got to do everything again. And he started dribbling the ball off his foot. No, I don't see it as a trust issue with Dwayne Wade. This was not Jordan passing to Paxson because the shot was open for him. This was LeBron saying, I just don't want any part of the pressure. I don't want any. You know what, guys? If you never take the shot, you can't fail, right? LeBron feels that he doesn't want to disappoint those around him. And so if he takes the shot and misses, he's let his guys down. But if he never takes the shot, he hasn't failed. And that's what it looked like to me. He's abdicating that risk. Kobe Bryant, whatever you want to say, and the Lakers get less efficient in the last 2 minutes of close games with Kobe, and he's a worse finisher than LeBron, and all the stats say that. But the smell test, no one ever believed that. Everyone's like, come on, Kobe's better under pressure than LeBron. What was the wisdom of crowds? What did the wisdom of crowds see that the numbers were missing? I think what it was is that Kobe, for all his selfishness compared to LeBron that people point out, he's not pass first. He always wants to shoot at the end, even if it's a low percentage shot. Kobe is like, forget these guys. I'm not afraid to disappoint my teammates, and so I'm not afraid to try and fail. And LeBron is so afraid of that failure because he disappoint those around him, he doesn't even want to try. Which is, and that in this country, in this sports landscape, that's the worst thing you can do, is be afraid to try, and people do not forgive that.
Do you realize, though, Max, what you're alleging is a crack in his psyche that is unlike any you will ever find in anyone as good as he is?
I guess, it's hard to point to anyone as good as him to begin with, right? A-Rod for a while, Dan, and I know it does not translate to baseball, and A-Rod in Seattle early on looked like a clutch player, and clutch is just not something you can apply in baseball hitting like it is in basketball. But there was something going on with A-Rod, too, where there was some kind of psychological issue that people just picked up on with the guy, and that's the closest thing. By the way, Peyton Manning, even when he won the Super Bowl, wasn't very good. He just wasn't as bad as Rex Grossman.
Yeah, but hold on a second. But the half before that was the single greatest half I've ever seen a quarterback play to come back against the Patriots to get him to that game when everyone was alleging at halftime that he had that same psychological crack.
And by the way, maybe it's happened. So maybe it's just the luck of the draw. You can't choose when you're going to slump. But it's not coincidental, I don't think. I think there's a correlation somehow that in the biggest game, not in the second biggest game. Well, that's pressure too. Yeah, that's pressure too. But it's not the same thing as the Super Bowl. Not the same thing as the NBA Finals. The stakes are elevated. It's higher leverage. It's for all the marbles.
See,
and I don't know if it's coincidental that that happened with Peyton. Listen, Peyton's not terrible under pressure, but his performance declines. Greg Maddox's performance declined under pressure. But when you're as good as those guys are, declining performance is still pretty good. That's not LeBron so far. In these finals, when it counted the most in each game, he wasn't on the floor. Sometimes I actually try to say, wait, is LeBron on the court? I literally had to strain to see where he was. There's issue. So you're right, Dan. I don't know if there's anything quite like it that I can readily compare it to in the history of sports.
I go the other way on the Wade-LeBron relationship. I don't think it's Wade looking at LeBron going, are you kidding me? This is the best you could do? I look at it like this. After Game 3, the whole season, Max, it's been Wade and LeBron side by side. It's us. We do press conferences together. And then after Game 3, Wade has a tremendous game. They win that game, and Wade says, this is my team. I've been here. I've won championships. So it's no longer their team. It instantly, in one single moment, became Dwayne Wade's team, and LeBron looks at him and says, oh, really? It's your team? Okay, go win it.
Well, and I do agree that LeBron early in the series, I thought, was having a very good series, even though he was having quiet fourth quarters. They were up 2-1, and he had efficient games. And yet he did not have big fourth quarters, even up until that point. Guys, there's no 6 consecutive fourth quarters in the NBA Finals when they should have won their first championship. He went away. There's no way. I don't know how. I don't think it's one pivotal event that causes that, in a guy's relationship with another guy. I think that's a deep psychological, I don't deserve it. I don't think that can just be explained away by a comment after a Game 3.
See, but
it can, then he's even weaker psychologically than we think.
I push away that kind of psychobabble because you're going, I don't deserve it. I don't.
Well, Dan, how would you explain it?
No, I don't have a good theory, but in the absence of a good theory, that doesn't make yours a good theory.
That's true, but it might make it the leader in the clubhouse. Teddy Atlas talks about this in boxing. where you can have a guy, to go stare. Now, sometimes if a guy's just not that deep, right, it doesn't matter. You get a big, dumb country kid playing some sport, and he fails. He's not analyzing it like that. He just goes out and plays some more. But with more sensitive people, more introspective, cerebral people, yeah, I mean, Teddy Atlas talks about when you're facing down another man, hand-to-hand combat, boxing, it's a sport at its purest or simplest. And there has to be a part of you that thinks, yeah, I deserve this. There's some kind of like moral high ground. I've prepared enough. You don't relate to that at all,
well,
Dan?
No, but here's
the kind of idea of self-love or self-loathe?
I understand that part, but what I'm saying is if I come to you and I ask you up 9 in the fourth quarter of Game 4 when they were up on the road and up in the series 2-1, and I say, Max, do you think that LeBron James deserves this? I mean, he put up a triple-double in Game 5, and it just happened that Dallas made 13 of 19 threes. And
happened. It just happened. Dallas made a whole. Listen, Dallas came back on the Lakers and in games and just destroyed them. Took their will to win. Dallas came back into the same thing. Here's another thing. So it's not just happens. It's that Dallas is better. But one of the reasons Dallas is better is who's the best basketball player in the world?
LeBron James is the best basketball player in the world.
Guys, I can't believe I'm saying this. Dirk Nowitzki outplayed in consecutive series LaMarcus Aldridge, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade.
He's not
he was
better,
the
Max.
best player. Guys, he was the best. I'm not saying going forward. And I know it's like when Tyson got knocked out and people still couldn't get their brains or their hearts to believe what their brains were telling them. Dirk Nowitzki was the best player on the floor in every playoff series he just played. And until his injury, he was an MVP candidate this year. And when he was hurt, his team was 2-7.
But Max,
and if you swap Dirk Nowitzki and LeBron James, the Heat win that series.
I'm not so certain. But Max, 6 games ago, if you put all the players from the Heat and the Mavericks, you put them on a court and said, hey, everyone, choose sides, yourself included, and every coach in the NBA, every last one of them would choose LeBron first. And then Wade, by the way.
By the way, that's why I thought that I believe between evenly matched teams, and when they have similar records at the end of the season, and especially if teams go to a Game 7, this didn't, it went to a Game 6, but at a certain point, it's the reason I love the Bill Russell stat, 21 deciding games in his career, high school, college, pros, 21-0 in deciding games. When you get to that deciding game, those are evenly matched teams. You know who wins? Team with the best player on the floor. That's Bill Russell. That's why I think, other than Jordan, he's the greatest player ever. But between these two teams, if LeBron was truly the best player in the world, and he's playing with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and they have good role players as they do, and they're up 2-1, then they win. You can't say he's the best player in the world if he doesn't play in the fourth quarter of 6 consecutive finals
you can't say he's the best player in the world if all he's doing is playing offense.
By the way, you would think not. That's why I kept telling people, Heat are going to win, Heat are going to win. I thought Dwayne Wade was the second best player in the world.
Right.
If you have 1 and 2, you can't lose. But you have to actually have 1 and 2, and I'm not going to try to cram my theory or the evidence into my theory. I'm going to try to build the theory around the evidence. And what the evidence tells me at this moment, not next year, I never thought it was true, but at this moment, I believe Dirk Nowitzki is the best in the world. I believe if you swap him with either LeBron or Wade, the Heat win. And I think he outplayed every single superstar in every playoff series. And his team was 2-7 when he was hurt this year.
It's hard to argue, though. It's hard to argue that.
But, Max, next year is 3 months from now. I mean, 3 months from now, if I ask you LeBron or Dirk, you choose LeBron.
Guys, when Lennox Lewis knocked out Tyson, and Tyson, had already lost twice to Holyfield and to Douglas, I was at an airport, and coming back from the fight, overhearing fans go, yo, you think Tyson could win a rematch? And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding? This guy almost decapitated him. He's not good anymore. But it was impossible for people to get their hearts to realize what their brains were telling you. Tyson was so just phenomenal to watch that you knew in your heart of hearts that's the best, but he wasn't. It wasn't true. And that's like LeBron. You watch him and you go, come on, no one's better than this guy. But there's more to it than just the eyeball test, and after what he just did, he's going to have to prove that he's the best in the game because I will not call him that right now.
Max, good talking to you, buddy. Always good talking to you.
Good talking to you guys.
Thank you, Max. That interview with Max will be up on the 800-411-PAIN audio archive at 790theticket.com in minutes. Car accident, remember, after 911.